Truck accidents are very different from the typical family car accident, where you have two individuals who are in their private cars that might weigh 5,000 to maybe 7,500 pounds if it's a bigger pickup truck. You're talking about, for example, an 18-wheeler tractor trailer rig that legally can weigh up to 80,000 pounds with a load. Typically, these very large trucks also are much longer than even a private passenger vehicle pulling a trailer. They're typically 70 to 80 feet long. And so one of the things that's very different about these types of accidents is you have this huge truck that weighs 70 or 80,000 pounds, typically hitting a small family car with people inside of it. Well, what do you think happens in that type of incident? Very different. In those kind of cases, we want to get an expert witness on board, typically an engineer, right off the bat to come to the scene as quickly as possible to evaluate what evidence is at the scene of the wreck. We need to be able to investigate the tractor trailer rig itself. Those are things that, while we certainly would do an investigation in any car accident case, in this type of case it's extremely important because you're dealing with a large corporation that is trying to diminish the value of your claim or to avoid responsibility. Another thing that's different about these type of cases, other than the fact that the actual vehicle itself is much more dangerous, is that you're dealing with somebody who drives for a living. And typical truck driver, in order to drive an 18-wheeler, has to have a commercial driver's license or a CDL. And that's what they do. They make a very good living, hauling in commerce across the United States. But these folks, if they have so many violations, they lose their job. It's not just that they lose the privilege to drive, but they lose their job. So there's an incentive for the truck driver to deny responsibility or not to accept responsibility. And so it's really important that you have a lawyer that's familiar with the federal regulations and the state regulations that apply to big rigs like that. They can do a proper investigation and determine whether or not was the driver qualified to drive the truck. Did the driver have a health problem where they shouldn't have been driving? Perhaps it's somebody that has epilepsy and has seizures, or has a heart condition or diabetes or something like that, a major health condition where they really shouldn't have been qualified to drive that truck. Maybe there's a maintenance problem because we're dealing again with a corporation. It's not always the driver. Sometimes it's also the corporate entity, the trucking company, because they're responsible for maintaining the brakes, making sure that they have adequate tread on the tires. It could be that there are issues not only about the maintenance department, maybe there's a systemic problem where they don't have qualified people to do the work as mechanics on these trucks that are driving hundreds of thousands of miles across the United States. There are just a lot of issues that really make them so much more complex, and many times in these cases we do rely on expert witnesses, and we want to be able to hire them early on in the case and to provide them with as much information as possible to help prove your case.